What is up, little baby internet land? I'm Lynn. Welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel. I do like little crafty shit here and talk about random crap. Yeah. So like, subscribe, click all the things. Okay, so I'm a huge cheapskate, right? So I saw the chance to get some resin that was cheap as crap, and so I did. And technically I used like the misplay Amazon gift card, so I got it for free. So yay, that part was good. But like it does this shit every time it cures, and like bubbles pop, I guess, and stuff comes up from the bottom, and it's weird, and I don't know, I guess you get what you pay for, and I paid nothing, so oh crap, I guess I have to stop being a cheapskate. Okay, so like this is the big skull I made out of the well, we're just gonna call it budget resin, and it's got like these weird cracks that if I just leave them there, they're going to be super obvious to me. You know, even if they're not to anybody else, they're gonna be super obvious to me. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make them like a fracture point. Yeah, so when I paint the skull, it'll have like a fractured skull underneath, like a fractured point in the skull underneath the paint color that will just like show up as sort of like remodeled bone. Yeah, I know, big words. I used to watch Bones. What? Huh. But anyway, yeah, like, so I've got to play into it, I guess. If it's gonna be there, I've got to do something with it. So I guess this is what we're doing. Yeah. So I know that I use like the wrong type of resin, like I use 3D printer resin for this sort of thing, but to be fair, it's actually just something that I'm weirdly comfortable with. So initially when I started doing this whole resin thing, I was really just playing with like some leftover resin from our 3D printing days when we tried 3D printing and got really frustrated with the fact that I don't think it was a good printer. Like, yeah, I think that's ultimately what it comes down to. It was not a good printer. But we still had a bunch of bottles of resin, and me being me who likes to reuse crafts for other crafts, yeah, I started filling molds with it, and kind of, yeah, okay, straight up, I'm obsessed now. But I'm also like kind of a fan of using the 3D printer resin. At this point, I've used the other like UV resin, like the stuff that cures really quick, and I don't have a problem with it necessarily. I prefer using this stuff, but not this cheap stuff. Lesson learned on the cheap stuff, okay? I will not be buying the cheap stuff again. So yeah, we're gonna make some fracture points out from here. Mostly where I messed up and didn't color well in between the lines. Yeah, because that's what we do. It's just like if you're like cooking and you make a mistake or something, like if you're frosting cake. Dude, sprinkles cover so many mistakes, it's not even funny. Like I said, I'm gonna paint this, so it's gonna look a little bit different the next time you see it, but he's got a fracture on the side of his skull, and that's gonna show up kind of under the paint, but it's not gonna show up like nearly as clear as it looks right now, so it's gonna be kind of muted a little bit. Yeah, and we're gonna see how using this cheap resin works out. Totally almost forgot, I did make a tiny little skull with that resin, and I was just curious because they mentioned in the reviews that it didn't do well for like the really small stuff, but it actually did pretty good in a mold. So yeah, like this is just a teeny tiny little skull thingy, and I didn't put any of the chameleon powder on the bottom, but yeah, it's actually pretty decent detail. So kind of impressed on that one. Okay, that did not work out perfectly because it totally just covered up my little Sharpie work. So I guess I am gonna go get my trombone and pull out my Sharpie again, and I will see y'all in a little bit. Well, I figured while I was at it, I might as well change the design and make their cracks a little bit more realistic. Like, you know, what would happen to bone? Yeah. Okay, so I've got some like touch-up-y type stuff to do because I am bad at letting paint dry, duh. But other than that, it's mostly, I would say, done. Now, I will say the tiny skull, I sort of knocked it off the table earlier, and it spilled out just a bunch of like wet resin, so I think I'm gonna go let this bad boy cure a little bit more, but I mean, definitely, you know, cute for using a really cheap resin for not its intended purchase or purpose. Yeah. Anyway, peace out, my lovelies.